O earth, witness my curse. Let the heavens hear my pain and bring justice.
They banished her because she told the elders that the prince was the father of her child. They left her in the forest to die. The sun beat down harshly on the village square as 30-year-old Alma stood before the Igwe in the Council of Elders. Her 7-month pregnancy showed beneath her worn wrapper, tears streaming down her face as she begged the silent prince seated among the elders. "Please, my prince, tell them the truth," Alma's voice cracked with desperation. "Tell them how you promised to marry me that night. Tell them how you lay with me and gave me this child." The prince sat still, his face like stone. Draped in leopard skin, he said nothing. The villagers murmured among themselves, eyes filled with disgust for the woman who dared accuse the prince of such shame. The Igwe, wrapped in ceremonial skins and beads, slowly rose from his bamboo throne. The palace walls seemed to close in as he spoke. "We have waited for the gods to reveal who got you pregnant." The Igwe's voice thundered. "You say it's my son, the prince, but the gods remain silent. Lately our land has suffered. Failed harvests, strange illness, unrest. I believe it's because we haven't punished you for lying about the prince. It is time for justice." "No, please." Alma fell to her knees, hands clasped. "I speak the truth. It was the prince." The Igwe raised his staff. "By the power vested in me, I banish you to the evil forest of Uzo-Oho. You shall never return to this village. Take her away." Guards grabbed Alma, dragging her to her feet. Some villagers joined, pushing her, singing mocking songs as they led her to the village boundary. Alma's cries echoed through the mud houses, but no one helped. Back in the Igwe's palace, in the inner chamber decorated with carved masks, the Lolo confronted her son. Her fine raffia cloth rustled as she stepped closer. "My son," she said softly but firmly, in front of the Igwe and elders, "I ask you again, are you sure you didn't get that poor girl pregnant?" The prince's jaw tightened. "Mother, she lies. She wants to stop my marriage to the princess of Isinu. I never touched her." The Lolo searched his face, but he avoided her eyes. Something stirred uneasily inside her, but she said nothing more. At the village boundary, Alma collapsed, shaking with sobs. The escorts left her there, their cruel songs fading away. With trembling hands, she scooped earth and raised it to the sky. "As you have used and denied me, so shall the gods deny you children. You will live, but never have your own children for the rest of your life." Some mothers who followed whispered among themselves, and later reported the curse to the Lolo. When the Lolo heard it, her unease grew deeper. She felt something was wrong but couldn't tell what. No one knew what to believe, especially since the Azeamu said the gods were silent. In the evil forest of Uzo-Ojo, Alma wandered through thick vegetation. As darkness fell, the forest, rumored to be haunted by evil spirits, was where the banished were sent to die. She found a large tree, sat beneath it, hugged her swollen belly and cried until she was exhausted. She barely slept that night, every sound making her jump with fear.
O earth, witness my curse. Let the heavens hear my pain and bring justice.
Overtook her. She barely slept that night, every sound making her jump with fear. The next morning, hunger drove her from the forest. She went to a faraway village where no one knew her and found work sweeping compounds and fetching water. With the little money she earned, she bought cassava and palm oil, then returned to the forest before nightfall. 3 weeks passed like this. Slowly, the forest became familiar. Omei gathered palm fronds and built a small hut with her own hands. It was simple, just enough to keep out the rain and give her shelter. This became her home. Meanwhile, in her old village, the prince married the princess of Ise-Inu in a grand ceremony. Drums played for 7 days, and the celebration was lavish. Omei stayed in the forest for 2 more months until she knew her time had come. That day, she didn't return after work. She needed to be near people who could help. That night, in a small hut in the distant village, Omei gave birth to a baby boy. The midwife was kind and asked no questions about her family or lack of one. The baby was beautiful with bright eyes and strong lungs. Oma held him close and whispered, "You are all I have now, my son. You are my everything." 3 years passed. Ome's son grew into a healthy, cheerful child. They went to the market together, hand in hand, and returned to their hut in the forest. The forest no longer scared Ome. It had become her sanctuary. But in the village that had banished her, whispers spread like wildfire. The prince and the princess of Isenu had no children, not even a miscarriage to give hope. Maybe Ome was telling the truth. The women whispered as they pounded cassava. If she wasn't, why hasn't the prince had a child yet? The men wondered as they tapped palm wine. The Igwe summoned his son to the palace. The prince knelt before his father on the mud floor of the bamboo hall. "My son," the Igwe said gravely, his leopard skin cloak draped over his shoulders. "People are talking. You must give me a grandchild." "Father, do not worry," the prince replied. "The gods will bless us soon. I hope you remember our tradition." The Igwe's voice was sharp. "You can never be king if you do not have a child. When I join the ancestors, do you understand what is at stake?" Fear flickered across the prince's face. "Yes, father, I understand." That night, the princess of Isenu confronted her husband in their chamber. "I am leaving you," she said coldly as she folded her wrappers. "What? Why?" "Everyone will think I am the problem. I will not be known as a barren woman. If you can't get me pregnant, I'm going back to my father's house." The prince reached for her, but she pulled away. "You know the truth, don't you? There's a curse on you." After she left, the prince lay on his mat, staring at the thatched roof. The night stretched endlessly, and sleep would not come. Images of Oma haunted him, her tears, her pleas, her curse at the boundary. By dawn, he had made his decision. The next morning, the prince summoned the Igwe, the Lolo, and his wife to the bamboo hall. With a trembling voice, he confessed everything. How he had lain with Ome, how he had promised to marry her, and how he had denied it all to go ahead with the royal marriage. The Lolo's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears of shock and disappointment. The Igwe's face darkened with rage. "You have brought shame upon this house." The princess of Isenu needed no more. She stood, gathered her belongings, and left the palace that same day, never to return. 8 market days later, the Igwe called the villagers together. "You all know the prince's wife has left. We seek a new wife for him to fulfill his duty and give us an heir." The Igwe waited, but the square stayed silent. Not a single maiden stepped forward. The villagers knew something was deeply wrong. No family wanted to be part of the curse on the prince. 2 years crawled by. The prince stayed alone in his compound. Then the Igwe fell ill. His body grew weak, and he could no longer stand without help. He called his son to his bedside.
O earth, witness my curse. Let the heavens hear my pain and bring justice.
He called his son to his bedside. "My son," the Igwe whispered, his voice thin as dry leaves. "There is only one way to save the throne. You must find Oma, make peace with her. Bring back your son. The throne must not leave our family because of your foolishness." The next day, guards were sent to all neighboring villages, asking about a woman named Oma and describing her features. 2 days later, a farmer brought shocking news. Oma still lived in the evil forest of Uzo. Oh, go. The guards could hardly believe anyone could survive there for over 5 years. The following morning, the prince went with his guards into the forest. They found Oma's palm frond hut in a clearing. Oma was outside, and beside her played a boy about 5 years old, with the prince's own features. The prince's heart clenched at the sight of his son. "Oma," he said, stepping forward, "I am sorry. Please get your things. Come with us. Come home." Oma stood slowly, her eyes hard as stones. "Leave this place and never return." "But Oma," he began. She said coldly, "what is happening to you is just the beginning. As for this boy, he will never be yours." The prince's world shattered, but he had no choice. He returned home defeated. When he told his father what had happened, the Igwe, even in his weakened state, was furious. "You fool. You saw your own son and came back without him when you know what is at stake." As the Igwe spoke, his body suddenly convulsed. He gasped, clutched his chest, and collapsed on his mat. The Lolo screamed for help, but it was too late. The prince stared at his father's still body, and in that moment he knew everything was lost. Without hesitation, without even mourning, He gathered his guards and rushed back to the forest. They found Oma with her son near the stream. Before she could react, the guards seized the boy. "No, no, give me my son!" Oma fought with all her strength, but she was one woman against many men. They tore the screaming child from her arms. "Please, he is all I have. Please!" Oma's cries echoed through the forest as she collapsed to the ground, watching them disappear with her son. The next day, Oma came to the palace demanding her child, but the prince ordered her thrown into the cell beneath the palace. A dark pit dug into the earth covered with bamboo poles. 3 days later, the Igwe was buried with full honors. The entire village gathered as his body, wrapped in fine cloth and animal skins, was laid in the earth. After the burial, the council of elders convened in the bamboo hall. The prince stood before them, confident that despite everything, he would be crowned Igwe. After all, he now had his son. But the Ezemuo, the chief priest, spoke first. His voice was ancient and filled with the wisdom of the gods. "The Ain gods have spoken to me in dreams. They reject this offering?" Onobu, the late Igwe's younger brother, rose from his stool. His body bore the scars of a warrior and his voice was strong. "Our tradition is clear. A man without seed, true accepted seed, cannot be king. My brother's throne cannot go to one who has been cursed." "But I have a son," the prince protested. "A son who was stolen," an elder added. "A son whose mother cursed you at the boundary. The gods have not blessed this union." The Lolo tried to speak on her son's behalf, but the elders would not hear it. The decision was made. Onowu would be crowned the new Igwe. Meanwhile, the young boy sat in the prince's compound, watched by guards assigned to care for him. But these were young, careless men, more interested in the drama of succession than in a frightened child. "Should we feed him?" one guard asked. Later, another replied, distracted by the commotion coming from the palace. "The meeting is more important." The boy cried for his mother, but no one came. He was given no food, no water. By nightfall, he had developed a fever, his small body burning with heat. Still, the guards did not notice. They were too busy drinking palm wine and arguing about who would serve under the new Igwe.
O earth, witness my curse. Let the heavens hear my pain and bring justice.
The guards didn't notice. They were too busy drinking palm wine and arguing about who would serve under the new Igwe. It was the Lolo who found him the next morning. She had come to see her grandson, to hold him, to find some joy in the midst of their loss. But when she entered the room, she found the boy lying motionless on the mat. "No, no, no!" Her voice started as a whisper, then became a wail that shook the very foundations of the palace. "My grandson!" She gathered the small, cold body in her arms, rocking back and forth. The prince came running at his mother's screams. When he saw his son, his only child, his only hope, lifeless in his mother's arms, something broke inside him. He fell to his knees, unable to make a sound. The guards stumbled in, suddenly sober, suddenly realizing what their negligence had cost. "We didn't know he was sick, my prince. We thought he was just sleeping." The Lolo's grief turned to rage. "You let him die. You let my grandson die." She clutched the child tighter, her body shaking. In the cell beneath the palace, Oma heard the wailing. At first, she didn't understand what had happened. Then a sympathetic guard whispered through the bamboo poles, "The boy, your son, he is dead." Oma's scream was that of a wounded animal. She beat her fists against the mud walls until they bled. She tore at her wrapper. She called out her son's name until her voice was gone. The child she had carried for 9 months. The child she had raised alone in the evil forest. The child who was her entire world. He was gone. The boy was buried quickly, as was the custom for children. But the Lolo could not bear the loss. For 3 days she neither ate nor drank. She sat in her chamber, staring at nothing, speaking to no one. On the 4th day, they found her lying peacefully on her mat as if asleep. But she had joined her grandson in the land of the ancestors. 2 days after her mother's burial, the prince stood in the village square as Onobu was crowned. Igwe, the new king, sat on the bamboo throne, wearing the ceremonial beads and leopard skin that should have been the princess's. The prince watched, hollow and empty. He had lost everything. His father, his mother, his son, his throne. All because of a lie he had told years ago. After the coronation, the new Igwe addressed the people. It is clear that injustice was done to Oma, daughter of this village. She will be released and restored to her rightful place among us. The guards opened the cell and brought Oma out. She was thin, her eyes vacant, her spirit broken. The new Igwe spoke to her with kindness, offered her land, offered her compensation. But Oma heard none of it. She went directly to where her son had been buried, a small mound of earth outside the palace walls. She sat beside it and did not move. Days passed. People brought her food, but she would not eat. They brought her water, but she barely drank. They tried to lead her to a proper house, but she would not leave her son's grave. I failed you, she whispered to the earth. I could not protect you. Forgive me, my son. The prince saw her there each day as he moved through the village like a ghost. He no longer wore fine cloth or leopard skin. He had become nothing, just a man haunted by his choices.